We've all heard it a million times. Diamonds are forever. They're supposed to be this incredible symbol of love, and, of course, a totally rock-solid investment. But in this explainer, we're going to dig into the data and ask, is that really still true? And if it's not, what's going on?
Okay, let's just cut right to the chase. The big question on everyone's mind is this. Are diamonds actually losing their value? Has that shimmer as a financial asset started to, well, fade?
Well, take a look at this. This graph is tracking the wholesale price of diamonds over the past year. And, that is a sharp, steady downward slide. It's pretty hard to ignore. It definitely makes you wonder, what in the world is happening here?
To really get what's behind that drop, we have to go beyond the glossy ads and the marketing slogans. We need to get into the nitty-gritty, the hard numbers of the actual market.
So how do you even do that? How do you take the pulse of the entire massive global diamond market? It's not something you can just guess at, right? You need a specific, super reliable tool that's tracking the trade pretty much in real time.
And luckily for us, that tool exists. It's called the IDEX Diamond Index. This is going to be our key to unpacking that downward trend and seeing what's really behind it.
So what is this thing exactly? Put simply, the IDEX Diamond Index is kind of the gold standard. It keeps tabs on the asking prices for polished diamonds across the entire wholesale market. That gives us a live snapshot of what's happening with their value. And this isn't just some number pulled out of thin air. No way. This index has some serious credibility. It was actually developed with university researchers from Tel Aviv University. It's built on this massive pile of data going all the way back to 2001. And get this, it's updated every single hour. It's about as robust as it gets. And here's probably the best way to think about it. If you want to know how the stock market is doing, you glance at the Dow Jones or the S&P 500, right? Well, if you want to know how the diamond market is doing, you look at the IDEX Diamond Index. It's really that simple.
Okay, so we know an index is basically an average, but an average of what exactly? To really understand that downward line, we need to know which specific kinds of diamonds have the biggest say on the final number. These are what we call the market's key drivers.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This table shows us that not all diamonds are created equal, at least when it comes to influencing the market. You can see right away that specific combinations of shape, size, color, and clarity make up these huge chunks of the market. And look at that. Round diamonds just completely dominate the top spots. And here's the kicker. The number one driver on that list, all by itself, accounts for over 12% of the entire wholesale market. That is huge. When its price moves, it has a massive ripple effect on the whole index. So let's break that top driver down. So here it is, the king of the diamond world. It's a round cut, weighing between 1 and 1.5 carats. The color grade is D to K, which basically means anything from totally perfectly colorless, that's the best you can get, all the way down to having a faint yellowish tint. And the clarity? It's a pretty wide range, from internally flawless, which is almost perfect, down to included, where you can often spot the flaws just by looking at it. This single category, this is the bellwether for the whole industry. Okay, so we've looked at the index and we've peeked under the hood at its key components. Now let's tie this all back together and really understand the story the data is telling us right now. This is the latest reading from the index, 85.07. On its own, it's just a number, but it's a number that represents the grand total of all those market drivers we just talked about. And that number we just saw, 85.07, well, that's the very last data point right at the end of this graph. See, we started with this picture, and now we actually have the tools to get it. This isn't just some random line. It's telling a story about the changing value of these real assets. So, just to be crystal clear, every single point on that downward sloping line is a weighted average of the prices of thousands and thousands of diamonds. And it's heavily, heavily influenced by those top drivers we just deconstructed. The fall in this line means there's been a widespread drop in what wholesalers are asking for. All right, we've decoded the data. We've seen the trend. But what does all this actually mean for you? For a potential buyer, or maybe for someone who already owns a diamond? Let's get to the real takeaway. This really gets to the heart of the shift. That long-held idea of a diamond as this rock-solid asset that only ever goes up in value, well, that's being seriously challenged right now. The data is showing us a market with real ups and downs, volatility. And for the past year at least, a very clear, significant downward trend.
And here's the bottom line. It's a two-sided coin. For someone who's thinking about buying, a falling wholesale market could mean that lower retail prices are on the horizon. But for anyone already holding on to diamonds as an investment, this trend means that asset in their portfolio has probably lost some value. It cuts both ways.
So we kind of end up back where we started, but now with a much, much clearer picture. The data shows wholesale prices are falling, and that's putting that whole timeless value idea to the test. And it leaves us with the biggest question of all. Why is this happening? Is this just a temporary dip, maybe because of the economy? Or is it something deeper? Are the tastes of a whole new generation of buyers changing? Or maybe is the rise of those nearly identical lab-grown diamonds finally shaking up the market for good? The data tells us what's happening, but the future of a diamond's value? Well, that's all going to come down to the answers to those questions.